The Māori name for eel is Tuna. Māori are significant tuna quota holders, and they're a highly valued customary, recreational and commercial species for Māori. The most significant hurdle to developing eel aquaculture is ensuring long-term, sustainable access to glass or juvenile eels for on-growing. A 3-year project has been looking at the feasibility of wild harvest of glass eels to support an eel aquaculture industry in New Zealand.
The project is called Tuna Aquaculture Overcoming the Hurdles, and it was funded by MPI through the Sustainable Farming Fund. It ran from 2013 to 2016, and we had collaborations with NIWA and TISPI Limited for the aquaculture side of things. We had 4 main objectives, looking at what quantities of glass eels are out there, what are sustainable levels of harvest, can we separate the longfin and the shortfin eels, because the aquaculture aim was just directed at the short fins, and in order to protect the longfins we want to separate them early to release them back into the wild, and what are economical ways of on-growing them to market size. Over the last years there has been a perception of a decline of eels in New Zealand due to pollution, habitat loss, the commercial eel fishery, or a combination of factors. So a lot of people are now thinking that aquaculture might be a solution. Currently it is illegal to fish or process eels under the minimum legal weight of 220 grams, so you cannot catch glass eels to grow them on. You can't do aquaculture in New Zealand just yet. There's a few things we have to prove and overcome. So get the underpinning science done first, find sustainable models of harvesting and on-growing, and get support from mainly iwi and industries and the regulator, because iwi are holding a lot of eel quota, I think about 50% of the North Island eel quota, so they're a major partner in this. The problem about eels is their complicated life cycle. They migrate out to somewhere near Tonga and New Caledonia. It's still a mystery where they spawn. They spawn millions of eggs and the adults die there. And then the larvae come back to New Zealand and enter our streams as glass eels. Millions of glass eels come up our streams, and there's a really high natural mortality rate. It is assumed to be more than 95% that die at that freshwater saltwater interface due to natural causes and predation. High natural mortality rate. So as they move upstream, they become pigmented and become alvars. They're a really long-lived, slow-growing species, so until they become adult eels, there's a lot of time that needs to pass. So short fins are 15 to 45 years before they migrate, and long fins can be even up to 100 years. So if you catch those ones, the survivors, the old survivors, that could threaten the fishery, whereas we are targeting the glass eels that come as millions, and if we can on-grow the ones that would otherwise perish and instead protect the migrants and leave the migrants in the water, that's what we believe would help the fishery. Here we are at the Foxton Wildlife Centre, and as you can see here, we've got our aquaculture system here that we have used for our project in the past 4 years. So after our on-growing trials were finished, we sold our aquaculture system to Mōpoko, who are now carrying out a 2-year glass eel project as well. Terry Happy has been one of our fishermen for our glass eel project. So he has been fishing at Kaikokopo stream for 3 years. And he is now involved in the Mōpoko project because he is a local and husbandry is really important. So he is now caring for the eels.
I'm a descendant of Rangitane ki te Manawa tū. So we're here at Himatangi. This is the Kaikokopo stream. It usually would come out during the moon phases, which is usually the full moon and a new moon. We come at those times because the tides are obviously a lot bigger, hence king tides. Usually we start fishing within the spring season. That's when we have a lot of fresh water coming out, a lot of rain. So there's a lot more volume of water out there in the sea, and that's the time that the actual whitebait start to come into our rivers. We're trying to catch as many of the glass eels as possible. That's our target species. We'll get whitebait, we get kōkapu, a whole lot of pārtiki, flounder, crabs, whatever's coming in usually gets caught in the net. But what we do, it's not just about the fishing, we do a whole lot of paperwork as well. So we need to record things like the wind direction and the strength of the wind. So today we've got a strong westerly, gale at times. We would record the quality of the water, if it's murky, if it's clear. We take the temperature, and we have all sorts of different observations that we record and that later gets put into graphs and tables and things like that. And all of this sort of this information helps us with the methodologies about when and how. You know, like white baiters, you don't just go out on any old day, you go out on the day. Yeah.
We're currently working with NEWA on developing further research, because while we learned a lot, there's a lot more questions to overcome. We need to move on from our small streams to the bigger rivers, because we need quantities and consistent annual supplies if we ever wanted to build up a farm. We also need to convince MPI to lift the regulations and change the regulations so we can actually sustainably catch glass eels, and we need to come up with a sustainability model of including the glass eels into the quota management system. Those are the main challenges that we need to tackle.
This program was made with funding from New Zealand On Air.